Have you ever had an idea for an illustration piece that you were really excited about? Maybe it was a composition you saw and inspired you, or a Pinterest post with a color palette you found really intriguing. Just anything that made you genuinely excited to sit down and kind of create, only to find that when it actually came time to illustrate, you weren't able to express your idea to its fullest potential. If you can relate, I'm relieved because I've been struggling to do this my entire life. What you see on screen is the most recent illustration piece I would tentatively call completed. Tentatively because from time to time I'll see this file open in Procreate and decide that something's a bit off and change it. For this illustration, I didn't really have references regarding the lighting or composition, although I did take a lot of inspiration from this work by Japanese illustrator Raylan, as well as this specific image of Last Rite from Arknight's Enfield. So, going into this illustration, what were the things that I did and didn't know how to do? That's easy. The concepts I'm fairly confident in are character illustration. That isn't really a joke. For the most part, all of my works that I've thought of have at least finished enough to post to Instagram feature absolutely bare bones lighting logic, perspective work. I mean, most are just kind of head-on shots, backgrounds, and in more cases than I'd like to admit, even just coloring the piece. This is no coincidence, as I tend to play it safe with my drawings. I know generally what I have the logic to and not to illustrate, and tend to lean towards making very plain, character-centric illustrations because, well, that's what's easy for me to do. See, the problem with doing this again and again over time, weeks, months, for me, years, is that I'll never actually reach a point where I feel like I'm expressing the core idea of the image, at least as authentically as I want to. Maybe an illustration, in my mind, that was supposed to express the dramaticism of direct light and the beauty of a character got watered down to one that looks like just alright, but has lost its core identity due to a lack of knowledge on my end regarding the perspective or lighting concepts at play in the image. Regardless of reason, when I concede to myself, when I make these compromises, the mental image I feel like was kind of for naught. Now it's just another one of my bare bones character illustrations. I realized pretty recently that I don't want to compromise anymore. I want to be able to think of an idea that excites me and see it all the way through. I want to be able to think of an angle that plays to a character's coolness and emphasize it with dramatic lighting. I want to be able to capture the calmness of a character with softer lighting and lower contrast. I want there to be a real and intentional difference thematically with the works that I complete. Well, I want to do a lot of things, but I'm still unsure about the logic for how a lot of these things would work. If you pulled up this diagram and asked me to explain where in my art I address each of these factors, you would get a vague response at best. That's why this illustration is a small but deliberate step away from my previous works. The reason I didn't want to overly rely on references for this one is so that at its completion, I could take a proper look at it and then identify the areas that I'm still personally dissatisfied with. This could be anything from light, shadow, anatomy, colors, just the general vibe I get from the image, everything. It's my best attempt at conveying how Last Rite interacts with the serenity of an early morning that I can muster given the limited information I have stored behind my forehead. It's by no means perfect, but it wasn't meant to be. The single most important part of this image, in my mind, was the glow and intrigue of the direct light coming from the assumed window in this setting. After struggling for far too long trying to figure out how to get this elusive screen glowing effect, 3 years into my digital art journey, I created my first color dodge layer. My hope is that for each finished piece, quote-unquote, I do from here on out, it'll help me test the boundaries of what I can illustrate a bit more each time. Each piece bringing me a couple of steps closer to being able to think up, mock up, and render an idea from being just a concept in my head to a tangible and frankly cool finished work. That's why I'm gonna keep drawing things that I don't know how to.